Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. I am coming to you from the lush, tropical South Carolina coastline, thus the palm trees in the background. USA Watchdog never sleeps, even while on vacation. And I brought in our old buddy, Gregory Mannarino of TradersChoice.net. Gregory Mannarino, you're the former Bear Stearns floor trader. Thank you so much for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com. It
is great to be with you, Greg Hunter, as always. Thank you.
Well, listen, I just want to start with last Friday. Today's Monday, so last week, the bond market got hammered. What's going on in the bond market, and why should we all care?
You know, Greg, I don't understand. I mean, there's so much irrational behavior and thought process, I believe, going on here. And that's what caused that sell-off here. Let's talk about this, because I want to get it out here and now on the Greg Hunter Show. There will be no December taper. That's what caused the sell-off. I think the bond market got spooked, and people are fleeing these things. I hate bonds. I mean, you know, anyone that knows me on a personal level, knows that I don't like these things. There's no safety in these things. People are going to get slaughtered if you're holding a bond as we move forward. However, I think some of those losses are going to be recouped, referring to the bond market. Why? Because the Fed is at this point, the $85 billion a month gorilla in the room, and this will be increased sooner than later. I talked about this in a recent video. We see how stocks are reacting as well. I think we're seeing an interesting dynamic here, Greg. People understand you can't be in bonds. If you're in a bond, you're losing money, being paid interest less than the actual rate of inflation. You can't be in the dollar, although we've had a slight bump here, but that isn't going to last either. The Fed will not allow the dollar to be strong. They're going to dilute it. So there's only one place to be at this point, and that is in equities, until the complete meltdown of the system, and the market will be halved or more at that point.
Well, I just want, as crazy as that sounds, that you're predicting that they're going to increase QE, there are some other people that are in your camp that are pretty well known, one of which is Peter Schiff, who blurted this out on CNBC not long ago, and of course everybody just looked like canaries in the room. Another source of mine, Fabian Calvo, as you know, she's going to be on in the next week or so, he says that, hey, listen, it's more than $85 billion a month. I'm sitting across from people with big hedge funds who are telling me it's $125 billion a month, or maybe more. It's a lot more than what they're saying, that's for sure. So you're saying they're actually going to increase it and they're going to announce it. Why would they announce that? Because they want people to know they're doing something and they don't want the market to melt down? Is that why they would announce it?
They have no recourse. There's no alternative to this at all. There is no economic recovery here in the United States. There's no economic recovery over in Europe. The central banks are going to attempt to print more in greater amounts to try to keep this propped up. And it's going to continue to distort asset classes across the board beyond the point of ridiculousness until reality sets in. They don't know what to do. In my opinion, and other people's opinions as well, they've already lost control here. And we're just watching this slow motion train wreck come apart. And until that happens, there's incredible opportunities here beyond any shadow of a doubt. And we all need to be
in what?
Well, number one, become your own central bank, something I've been saying since day one. That means get yourself into hard assets. As a matter of fact, the first interview that we ever did, Greg, was about hard assets. I am the biggest bull probably on the face of the earth regarding hard assets. People need to be in gold. They need to be in silver. More specifically, I think silver is the most undervalued asset in the history of the world at this particular point in time. The Fed is going to continue to hyperinflate equities beyond, I think, what anybody can imagine.
This is enormous. I mean, I know there's been a downturn in the precious metals market, and some people are, dogging you and Jim Sinclair, saying, well, I bought in 2011, and look at this market for 2 years. But I think when you step back 10 years from now, look at this on a chart, you're going to see boop, 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 for a couple of years. I mean, is that what you're saying? I mean, you're saying get control of these metals. no matter what. Just keep dollar cost averaging and buying into them. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been doing that for years, and I will continue doing that until the cows come home. And where I live in Vegas, there's not too many cows.
What do you say to people who say, I've lost money, I've listened to Peter Schiff and Jim Sinclair and Gregory Mannarino? What do you say to people like that?
They're missing the big picture. I mean, first of all, you want to talk about this in dollar denominations. Look at it in other currencies as well. But let's stick to the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar, we understand, has been under pressure for a long period of time. The Fed will not allow the dollar to gain strength here. And there's a currency war that's going on. As you know, you've spoken with Jim Reckers. This is going to accelerate as we move into the new year. And the dollar is going to be diluted. Just last week, we had Bullard coming out talking about there's not enough inflation. They're literally saying we're going to dilute the dollar. And that goes back to the premise that they will not and cannot stop printing cash out of thin air. If they're going to do this, where do you need to be? You need to be in precious metals. So just dollar cost averaging to these things. Embrace this. This is what I do. I love it when I see the market drop regarding to the paper markets of gold and silver because of the peg. This is going to disappear at 1.2, in my opinion. But this is where people need to be beyond any shadow of a doubt. And that's how I feel about it.
Let's talk about the real world economic, and thank you for taking the hard question. Now let's talk about the real economic downturn or downfall of what Obamacare is going to be turning into. There's not a day that goes by, particularly when I talk about it in the Weekly News Wrap-Up. I think I had Kerry Lutz on, who very sharply criticized Obamacare and that it will not and cannot, forget the website. Yeah, they may fix that, but the plan can't get fixed. And I'm hearing from people over and over again, my health insurance policy went from, $550 to $950. My health insurance policy went from $680 to, $1,200. I keep hearing these people that are insured, what they say 5% is 15 million people. And they put off the employer benefit, the employer section of the Obamacare, which if anybody thinks they're going to have an employer plan that's going to be unscathed by taxes and changes and your wife being kicked off like the folks at UPS. So my question to you, with this consumer confidence numbers that have plunged last week. Now I know you're watching all this stuff because you're week to week you're analyzing and making shorts and longs and whatever. What do you think the Obamacare, or how bad I should say, is Obamacare going to be for the real economy?
Awful, absolutely awful. But I'll tell you what people I think really need to absorb from this entire thing. What we're witnessing now regarding Obamacare and everything. This is just simply a wealth transfer. It's that simple. Where they wanted the young, healthy people to subsidize the older, sick ones. And I would hope, sincerely, that the younger people out there are smart enough to realize that this scheme on them is a joke on them, and you need to avoid this like the plague. This is going to kill jobs beyond any shadow of a doubt. It's going to steal monies that could be put into the economy. You can't offer people a product that is covering more and it be cheaper. It's impossible. We all know this, and we've all known this as we've been hearing about Obamacare for the last X amount of years. This whole thing is some kind of a scheme towards socialism, towards fascism, towards communism. Unfortunately, this is what Obama is all about. He's a socialist. He's a socialist, fascist, communist, in my opinion. He doesn't believe in American values. Look, I think people need health care. There's no doubt about that. But there's a better way to go about this. Let the free market do that. Let the free market determine what these assets, health insurance, should actually cost people. There's been nothing but those in Washington, especially lately, they're pushing forth their agenda towards a de-Americanized world. And even China has been using that term. And what I mean by that is a free market society will no longer exist. At least they don't want it to exist as we move forward. Personally, I am a free market guy. I believe sincerely in my heart the free market will do its sole job at one point, and this is across the board. That's what made America great, is a free market economy, not a socialist, communist, fascist economy. We are now one nation under surveillance. We are no longer one nation under God, and this is only going to get worse. And I think this is going to be a train wreck of epic proportions as we move forward here. It's not going to work.
That's why these last week, there was, more than a half a dozen, 14, 15 Democratic senators all up for re-election. I think 21 or 2 are up for re-election. In my home state, North Carolina, Kay Hagan, I don't see how she's not skewered. They're running a medical doctor against her. She's going to be skewered over this. And these are all these people that Mary Landrieu in Louisiana, who's conveniently avoiding a speech that Obama's made last week because she doesn't want to be standing next to him. At all these people, oh, it's going to be cheaper, oh, it's going to be better. All these Democratic senators, and they're sticking by their guns. They're not going to put this off. I don't see how you even put it off now. How do you put that genie back into the bottle after 4 or 5 million canceled insurance plans with another 10 million or so to go? How do you put that back in there? I think we're already on the glide path, aren't we, to a crash?
Oh, that's absolute, 100%. But I mean, let's put the other perspective on it. Is no one read it? No one read the law. Pelosi, we have to pass it to see what's in it. Are you kidding me? This is what it's come down to? It's incredible. And no one put any thought into this, really. They just wanted to push this agenda. If you can control people's health care, which is probably the biggest aspect of their life, you can control everything else. That's what this is about, period. This goes back to communist doctrine from Vladimir Lenin. We know this, and this is their agenda. They want to absolutely disrupt and push out a free market economy. They want a managed market economy where the government is so big and so monstrous that it can force you to buy things like healthcare or anything else they want. What kind of car you need to drive, maybe what color car. Who knows? Who knows what's next down the pike here? It's not going to be good for America in any way, shape, or form.
A final question. I want to bring this up. I should have got this in my weekly news wrap-up last week, but I didn't get it in. But I want to talk to you a little bit about it in generalities. And Saudi Arabia has made some comments publicly that said that they want to change in a major way, change the relationship with America. Well, the only thing that could be is taking payment for their oil. I believe they're the second world's biggest exporter of oil, the second biggest exporter in the world of oil, crude oil. And they want to change, in a major way, the relationship they have with the United States. Kerry's over there last week, and that's what they're going to do. And one person, that I was interviewing said, well, who's going to protect them? Well, lo and behold, what happens the last week, is that Saudi Arabia has made a deal with Pakistan to buy nuclear weapons. I think they're planning on protecting themselves. What do you suppose the chances of Saudi Arabia saying, hey, we're going to start taking payment in yuan and euro and ruble, and although Russia doesn't need to buy oil, we're going to take oil and everything, and any kind of major currency payment. What would happen to the U.S. dollar?
Well, let's start with this. I don't think people realize that most transactions involving the U.S. dollar are done outside the country. Why is that? The dollar is the world's reserve. We know that, you, me, a lot of people. So this is going to change the dynamic of everything. This is what I've been talking about for the longest time. I think as we move forward here, Greg, we're going to start to see more countries become isolated from each other and do exactly what you're saying. The dollar is going to continue to lose its reserve status. China is going to be stepping in at every moment they can. Russia, other countries, they've been taking advantage of this for a very, very long time. They're going to continue to do that. And unfortunately, the American way of life, and you can just see this, is going to change dramatically throughout the rest of Obama's term. But I think there's going to be a turnaround point here. I really do, because it can't work. What they're trying to do will not work, and it cannot work. And I think
with Obamacare.
with Obamacare, and not just Obamacare, but with the direction that they're trying to push the American way of life. And there's going to be a shift at one point, and people aren't going to stand for it. I think there's going to be revolts in this country. I think there's going to be massive amounts of social unrest here in this country, and they're going to demand something be done. And it's going to be a very interesting time, I tell you.
Gregory Mannarino, traderschoice.net. Thank you so much for coming on USAWatchdog.com. Love having you on. You're one of my prime regulars. I really like having you. Your mind is always, in analysis mode. So thank you very much for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com. And again, traderschoice.net, where Gregory Mannarino gives you free trades. Thanks, Gregory Mannarino.
Thank you, Greg Hunter. I appreciate it.